Howdy Beans, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the Howdy Beans podcast. I'm your host, Luke the Elder Bean. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're all good. As per usual, today we're going to be looking at a weird movie, and I have to laugh because it is a very strange movie, and it probably won't do well, but you know what? I'm all about having fun, and this movie is potentially going to be a lot of fun or incredibly disgusting. We're going to find out. So today I'm going to be talking about How to Eat Fried Worms from 2006. Now, I know a lot of you are probably asking this question. Luke, why are you talking about a movie like this after you went almost an hour long talking about Leon the Professional? Why talk about this movie next? Well, honestly, I don't have an answer. I really don't. Most because it's fun and I want to experiment. And I promise I will explain as to the reasoning behind the choosing of this movie in a minute. But first and foremost, I want to do with housekeeping because I like to keep my house nice and clean. And then I promise I will explain everything. So make sure that you follow me on Twitter, howdybeans_pod. You can find the podcast on YouTube. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you're listening on there. Also, you can find me on Spotify. And if you're listening on there, don't forget to follow the podcast and give me a 5-star rating and maybe write a comment down below. You can also find the Howdy Beans podcast on TikTok and Instagram. Just type in the Howdy Beans podcast and you will find me there. So this is the beginning of a new series. This is an idea that I've had since sort of the inception of the podcast, really. And it's what this new series is going to be called. It's going to be called Movies I've Only Seen the Trailer To. And it's very much self-explanatory. These are films, because there's quite a few of them, including this one, that I've only ever seen the trailer for. But when I've seen the trailer, they've stuck with me. You know, kind of like I did with Amelie, and I kind of did with like Leon the Professional. With those movies there, I saw the trailers or I saw a bit of music from them and it's just stuck with me. It's been always one of the things that I've always wanted to watch. And it's the same with How to Eat Fried Worms and other movies that I have on this list are films that I've only ever seen the trailer to, but no matter how weird or crazy these films seem, they just appeal to me, or think about them just sticks to me. And there's quite a few, like I said, on this list. And I've had this idea since the beginning of my podcast. I've just never really got around to it. So I figured, why not? In my 5-year anniversary, and this is going to be a year, should I say, of experimentation and trying new things, then why not? So I thought, where else am I going to put it? You know, I've got loads of ideas for the rest of the year. I don't know where I'm going to get a movie like this, where I'm going to be able to put it in. So I figured, you know what? Sticking here at the beginning of March, it's silly. Most people probably will listen to it. Most people won't. I don't know. But either way, it's going to be a bit of fun. So that's the idea behind it. That's why I've chose it. And again, it goes into sort of my memories of this. I can't remember the film that I was watching that this was this was played before it. I can't remember the movie, but I remember this one. And there's in the trailer. Again, if you want to Google the trailer, you can find the trailer on YouTube. In the trailer, there is a scene where from what I remember, this kid comes. He's a new kid who just starts school, and he gets in trouble with the local bully. And the bully's just like, "Look, I dare you to eat this worm," and the kid goes, okay, and then they set a date or something like that. And then him and his new sort of found friends try to find different ways to cook worms or that sort of thing to figure out what is the best way to do it. So when he has to eat one, it's not going to be as disgusting. And that's the consensus I got from it. Again, the movie's from 2006, so I was a young bean when this movie came out. So when I saw the trailer, I was the target sort of market for this film. And it's funny, at 28, the movie still stuck with me. And there's one scene at the very end of the trailer where they've got a worm or worms in a microwave, and they're obviously cooking in the microwave. And if anybody knows how microwaves work, they cook from the inside out or the outside in. Either way, basically, you put something like that in, the worms just explode. It's very, very disgusting. And I'm sitting there going, "That looks cool." You know, when I was younger, I never got around to it. It was never shown on TV. It was never on Sky or Channel 4 or any of the other sort of channels here in the UK. So it was never something I could ever watch. And I'm actually kind of panicking at the moment, thinking like, how the hell am I going to find this? Because I don't know if this film's on streaming or anywhere. So I don't know what I'm going to do. But hopefully I'm going to be able to find it and sort of give it a watch. But yeah, I don't have a lot of memories because I haven't seen the film. I just remember the trailer and it being one of the films I was like, oh, this looks right up my alley. And it's just never left me ever since. And it's always been on my sort of like watch list of like, I'm going to give that a watch. I'm going to give it a go. And why not now at the 5-year anniversary when I'm 28, when I'm practically an adult? Why not give it a go now? So that's the reason as to why. So yeah, as for the movie synopsis, so it is 11-year-old Billy's first day at a new school. Such an occasion is difficult enough for a boy to survive unscathed, but the inevitably occurs the wrath of a bully and finds himself in an unappeasing predicament. He must eat 10 worms in a single day or face the consequences. A sister who likes to blab, a weak stomach, and Billy's own big mouth stack the decks against him. And that is the synopsis for this movie. As for the cast, so again, a lot of these are all adults now. You know, they're no longer kids, but at the time they would have been kids. So you've got Luke Benwood as Billy, Haley Eisenberg as Erica, Adam Hicks as Joe, which actually Luke Edward, I believe he was in a couple of Disney movies. I believe he was in Minutemen, which kind of reminds me I need to actually go back and watch a lot of, look into a lot of the original Disney movies. Yeah, he was in the Minutemen, which was like a Disney sort of channel sort of movie. Really, really fun. I remember enjoying it. I remember there being Hook and stuff like that. But yeah, that's just me sort of waffling. Anyway, yeah, Luke, Elsie, and then you got Adam Hicks. He was also on Disney Channel as well. Austin Rogers as Adam, Alexander Gord as Twitch, Ryan Malagary as Benji, Philip Bloden as Bradley, Clint Howard as Uncle Ed. Clint Howard, this guy, he's in everything. You know, he's been in The Grinch Stole Christmas, Ice Cream Man from 1995, the horror movie. He was in a Solo. He's been in Armageddon. I'm trying to think of other movies. Like literally, he's got a very iconic voice and face. I think he actually plays Rex in Toy Story as well. You know, so he's a very well-known sort of actor. So I'm not surprised he's in a movie like this. Tom Cavanaugh, who played Reverse Flash in the Flash TV show, he plays the dad. Kimberly Williams Paisley as the mom. And that's about it, really, for the cast list. People that James Ribhorn as Ballerhead. He's been in a lot of films like Meet the Fockers and stuff like that. So that is your cast. As for the production, again, it's a very sort of cheesy, small sort of film, so it's kind of hard to find anything on it, but I managed to find some things. So the film began development in 1996 after film rights were acquired by Image Entertainment. John August was hired to write the screenplay in his first paid screenwriting job, and Thomas Schwimlam was attached to direct. They went through 4 different drafts, but neither August nor Schwimlam had really connected with each other. Eventually, Bob Dolman was brought on for rewrites. Universal Pictures put the film in turnaround, and Nickelodeon Movies brought the film from them. Schwimlam, I can't pronounce his name, but we're just going to go with it, was later replaced with Joe Nesbaum. Eventually, Nickelodeon Movies dropped the film, which is a surprise because Nickelodeon love sort of movies like this, but no, they dropped it. And it remained in development hell until Walden Media came in to finance and produce the film. New Line Cinema entered as distributor, and Dolman decided to direct his own script. Shooting began in July 2005. August chose not to acquire screenwriting credit via WAG rules, as very little of his initial screenplay remained in the finalized project. And that's all I could really find after the production. And while I was doing my research, I actually found that this movie is actually based off a book, and that the book is kind of classed from like 1990s to 2000s of like America's most challenging books because of its subject matter. Which again, it's a kid's book at the end of the day. But either way, there are some differences from the book, but I will leave them until we get to the actual review itself, because I don't want to get into it and potentially ruin things for myself. Because like I said, I've only seen the trailer. I don't want to ruin, I've seen all I need to see. You know, I don't want to ruin the movie for me. So yeah, this is a very sort of short introduction, honestly, because yeah, I don't know much about it. I've only seen the trailer. There's no real production stuff about it. So it's going to be a weird one. It's going to be a fun one. Fingers crossed the movie's good. You know, otherwise, I've been waiting all this time for nothing. But I can imagine, let's be honest with you, all jokes aside, it's a kid's movie. it's not one to take seriously. I'm not Roger Ebert. I'm not going to try to break this down and try to be like, oh, they should have done this, or the worms didn't look real. No, like, I'm not going to do that. I'm literally going to turn my brain off, watch it if I can find it, and then just have a bit of fun and see where it goes, see where the night takes us. I have a feeling, from what I saw from the trailer and how that it's still sort of stuck with me all these years, that potentially I'm going to enjoy it, but I won't know until we get there. So fingers crossed. If you can find a copy of this movie, watch along with me, then by all means do so. If you can't, don't worry about it. I'm going to find it and then we'll sort of talk about it. But until then, I'll see you all in a minute as I go off and try to watch How to Eat Fried Worms, which just sounds disgusting, but at the same stage, I'm really interested. And welcome back, everyone. So, just as we begin, I just want to sort of lay claim to this, saying we're not here looking for high art. We're not here looking for Steven Spielberg, Quentin Tarantino, Martin Scorsese. You're not got performances like Daniel Day-Lewis or anything like that. Like, this is a kids' movie. Like, look, we have to really sort of subdue expectations here, because this is not that sort of movie, and it's not that deep, so I'm not going to get deep into it, because it is generally just about a boy that's bullied into eating 10 worms. Okay, but, and this bit is important, right? Is it a movie I would have watched when I was a kid? Most definitely. Does it remind me a lot of the movies I watched as a kid, i.e. Sandlot, Thunderpants? Movies where like Stand By Me, kids movie, like kids. Obviously, I know Stand By Me is not a kids movie, but like movies where you have a group of kids that just come together and go on an adventure, sort of thing. I watch a lot of those movies growing up, and it reminds me of that. Now, admittedly, would this movie get made today? No. Specifically, if it was made, it wouldn't go out onto like theaters. It would go straight onto streaming. You'd see it on Netflix or like Tubi or something like that. This is not sort of high art, but is it good? Yeah, it's not bad, actually. Admittedly, I will be honest and say that if you are going to watch this movie, if you are a nervous disposition, if your stomach churns and you can't watch like the eating challenges or like I'm a Celebrity, or like things that they do on Jackass, or you just can't watch people eat worms and stuff like that, this movie's probably not for you. So best not to watch this movie before or after you eat sort of dinner or tea. But it's a kids movie. I mean, there's not really much more to say. I went into it not expecting much, and I didn't get a lot out of it, but I didn't expect you would. But for what it is, it works. It's good. It's interesting. It's silly. It's funny. It's a kids movie. It's exactly what I thought it was going to be honest. And like I said, I enjoyed it. But yeah, so I'm just going to jump straight into sort of the story and the premise, because, like I said, there's not really much to say in the first impressions. I was actually kind of impressed on a lot of the things of how they cooked the worms. And again, I've got a little bit on the worms a bit later on what worms they use and what they didn't use and that sort of thing. For the trivia part. But what I really liked about this movie, I know it's a very odd sort of thing, but it's got a sort of animated introduction. And if you've been listening to the podcast long enough, especially if you listen to the George of the Jungle episode, you will know that I really love an animated intro. I don't know why. I just really appreciate when you get one. And what I like about this animated intro, it really sets up the main character as Billy being somebody who has a weak stomach, somebody who throws up very easily, off anything disgusting or weird, he throws up, and it has that animation sequence. And it also kind of tells the story how like they've moved to this new town. And then when the film starts, they're in the back of the car driving to this new town, this new house, and Billy's got his younger brother, Woody, next to me, and he's eating like a sort of enchilada or some sort of wrap, but like it's all mushy, it's all over his face, and it's all over his hands. And his brother looks at him, and then Woody kind of looks back at him, puts his mouth out to him with like some food in his mouth, and straight away, Billy's just like, "Mom, stop the car!" And he jumps out and he throws up. So it just kind of sets up this thing like this kid throws up very easily, and I get it. Like I used to have a very strong constitution. But then when I got diagnosed with IBS, I get really easily motion sick. And it not through driving, but like I can go on roller coasters, but I can't go on anything that spins anymore because my vertigo just goes through the roof to the point where I'm just like, oh God, I can't do this. So I don't go on spinny rides anymore. Like I can still watch things like movies like this, and I can still watch Jackass and really disgusting things, and not like I can eat dinner while I watch it. Stuff like that don't bother me. But like when I'm in like long journeys, if I'm looking at my phone or if I'm trying to read or anything like that, even just for a little bit, I'm like straight away, I'm like, ugh. I mean, so I kind of get where he's coming from. But like this kid is like very sickly, like he's easily set off by everything. And that kind of goes into this idea of this story. Moving along a bit, sort of like it's his first day back into school, and obviously they all realize, like he gets the attention of like the bully kid. And he's like, Joe, it's like, oh, you're the new kid, blah 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 blah. You're sort of weird, the standard sort of thing. And he's got his own little gang, and because he's a new kid, obviously they pick on him. So he goes into class, he goes to sit down, and they steal his lunchbox, and then they basically put worms in like his thermos. So obviously when he's gone into lunch, and they all look at him silly, and he pulls out his lunch. He's like, what are they looking at? Blah blah blah, and then he unscrews his thermos lid, sort of tries to tip it out, nothing's coming out, then turns upside down, loads of worms come out, and they laugh at him, ha 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 ha. It's young kids, like they're in preschool, they're in like primary school, as we would call it in the UK. They're young kids, under 12s sort of thing. And like they're trying to make fun. Obviously, he's trying to be like, look, nah, Joe, don't be stupid and all that. I love worms. I eat worms all the time. I eat fried worms. The fatter and juicier, the better, and all this sort of jazz. Just trying to basically look, oh, I'm not embarrassed. This is normal. Blah blah blah. And he ends up picking one up, goes to eat it, but then throws it, and it lands on the Joe, the head sort of bully's face, and he's like, "You're dead," sort of thing. And then he bets him with like, you gonna have to eat 10 worms, and if you don't, you'll be worm boy forever, and you'll have no friends, and nobody can talk to you, and all that. And then Billy's like, yeah, I'll eat 10 worms, and that's kind of gets the sort of ball rolling of this story. And that itself is predominantly the most interesting part. You do have a few side bits with the mom and dad, and specifically the dad played by Tom Cavanaugh, where like he's trying to fit in at work and it's not going great, and he's basically having to try and show off. But these parts, again, as an adult, I'm not really interested. So again, I would imagine as a kid, I'm not very interested. I would imagine they're just in there to kind of pad out the runtime, and also to give Billy a moment near to the end of the movie, where he basically goes like I won, but I cheated. Do I still win? And his dad basically goes, well, if you you still cheated, so you know what you did, so you've kind of got to make it right, and that sort of thing. So it's it's done to kind of give a nice sort of rounded sort of conclusion. So we have a bit of a happier sort of ending at the end. But it's interesting more so with the kids when they're going around, and you've got Joe and his gang, and you got Billy, and they're cooking different worms. Like they deep fry 2, they microwave 1, which just absolutely just explodes. They put a few into a big pot, and they put they make it really, really hot. They put like Tabasco sauce in, and Louisiana hot sauce, and all kinds of different horrible things, pickles, and all like basically it's a cacophony of whatever you can find in your fridge and in your cupboards, just pouring that in. He eats that, blows his head off. They get ones where they get like marshmallow, melt them with some tuna, mix that together. Like it's really disgusting. Like any one of these would make you throw up. Like fair play to the kid not throwing up in this movie. Obviously, I know it's a movie, but you know what I mean. And that was one thing. Like if he has to eat 10, if he throws up out of any of them, he loses, right? So they're all watching him, but then you got this one kid called Benji. He's cooking them. And there's loads of different ways as well. They put one in an omelette. He doesn't eat the omelette. They ended up getting one of their head teacher accidentally eats the omelette and absolutely loves it. But as the movie goes on, as sort of Billy's eating these worms, he's like becoming like the local hero because he's standing up to the bully. Like nobody stands up to Joe because like Joe has this ring that like it's a skull ring, and like there's obviously as you do in school, there's this like local legends that we have a little about bullies and you know these little small little things that mean nothing, but to when you're a kid these are like absolute gospel. That like this ring that Joe wears, if he hits you with it, it has poison in it, and that you will die, but you don't die straight away. You die in the 8th grade, sort of thing. And there's this one kid, I can't remember his name. I think was his name not Bradley? Which one was he? I'm going for the list at the moment on IMDb to try and find him. Was it Rob or Adam? I think it might have been Adam. Anyway, one of the kids who's nice to Billy when like he first gets there, he goes, "Oh, he punched me once, so I'm going to die soon. But it's all right. It's the 8th grade, you know, so it's a way away, you know, but I'm still going to die." Sort of thing. So there are small sort of silly, sort of funny sort of moments in this movie. One thing I will say, to be honest, and I had this thought almost straight away, is that this movie swam so that Diary of a Wimpy Kid could sail. Because as I was watching this, it does feel so much of Diary of the Wimpy Kid. I love those movies. And what I love about those movies is because, again, they came out when I was younger as well, was the fact of you have Greg Heffley. He tries so hard to fit in, so hard to be somebody he's not, so hard to do something that he doesn't want to do, try to fit in with the wrong people. And by the end of the movie, not to spoil it for anybody, but he basically realizes the best way to fit in is to be yourself, not to be anybody else, right? And that's fact for anything. I've got a proper like, well, say many stories, but I have a story where I tried to do that when I went into senior school, where I tried to fit in. I pretended to be somebody I'm not, because when I was in primary school, I was the weird kid. I didn't have many friends, that many people liked me, so I was like, that's it. You know, I've seen a lot of movies when I was younger about how to act and behave, like in senior school, you know. So I was being myself, but I was being a edited version of myself. And, you know, I ended up getting in the wrong crowd and doing things I wasn't totally happy about. And eventually one day I just decided that I didn't want to be this person anymore, didn't want to hang around with these people. And I started going off with people that I felt more sort of a connection to. And I was more myself. And yeah, obviously it's a longer story than that, but we've all done it. I did it, you know what I mean? Like, you know, you try to blend in with people to act cool, but you eventually realize that you're not cool, you're just a bully, you know. So it's one of those. But that's what I kind of like about this movie, and that's why I say that this movie swam so that sort of Diary of a Wimpy Kid could sail, was because when you watch this movie, it has that same sort of feeling to it, you know, where you've got a group of kids, and as Billy's eating these worms and proving that Joe hasn't, you know, even though he's like the big powerful leader of the gang, that Joe isn't really sort of as scary or as in control as anything. Like, you know, Billy's standing up to him and he's eating all these worms, that all the other kids that are obviously scared of Joe that hang around with him basically realize, no, screw Joe. I don't want to be friends with him. I'm going to be friends with Billy, because like Billy's like the hero. Like he's doing this. He's standing up to him. Like he should have threw up after the first one, but he's eating 5. So no, I'm going to do it. So people start going to Billy's side, and Joe starts to lose friends. And there's a really sort of cool moment in this movie. And I say cool, it's not cool, but it's an interesting moment where there's a scene where Joe's at home. So it's a Saturday. They all said, like, you know, it happened on a Friday. So okay, tomorrow on Saturday you're going to eat sort of 10 worms. We're going to start at 10 a.m. So you have a sequence where Billy's getting up, he's getting himself ready and psyched for what he's have to do, and like Joe, he's in the house and he's making toast, and his older brother, who's obviously a bully, like a really horrible person, is being mean to him, picking on him. You know, gets his toast, eats a bit, throws it on the counter, sort of thing. Says he's a loser, nobody likes him, blah blah blah. And again, I'm not defending bullies, not at all, because, you know, I was bullied in school. There's no reason to ever be a bully, but I emphasize, I understand why some people become bullies. And again, I'm not going to get into it, 'cause like I said, this movie isn't that deep, and we're not here to get into the psychology of why people bully or anything like that. But there are people that bully, you know, because they feel worthless, because they don't feel like they're anything. So they see other people who are, you know, proud or happy, or being themselves, unique or whatever, and it's like, well, that's not fair, because I'm not like to be like that, so I'm going to bully them because they're different, because they can be what I can't be, you know. again, we're not getting into the psychology of it, but you see with this movie, you see as why Joe is the way he is, because his brother picks on him. It's that thing of when you're at work, the CEO shouts at the manager, so the manager shouts at you, so you shout at the person below him, and he shouts at the person below him, and it's one of those things. It's just like a ladder that just cascades down of people shouting at the person that's below them because the person above them has shouted at them. Same sort of thing. His older brother shouts at berates and is mean at him, so he does it to people that he feels is below him, and that sort of thing, really. And it works because by the end of this movie, you see that Joe, he's realised that he's lost all his friends, and he realised what kind of person he is, and he loses the bet. Billy wins. And his brother comes. He goes, "Look, I've come to see you win, but you didn't win, and that shows how much of a loser and horrible and idiot you are," and something. And then all the lads come together and go, "No, stand up to Joe's brother and says, leave him alone," especially Billy and all that. He's like, "No, leave him alone. There's no need to be mean to him. There's nothing wrong with him. He's a good guy. I like him. He's my friend," sort of thing. And then sort of like Joe, like the older brother, goes away, and then you get like Joe and Billy and all the other kids are sort of good friends now, because again, as the movie goes on, as Billy's eating these worms, as I said, the kids start to realize that Billy's actually a cool sort of person, that we shouldn't really pick on him in the first place, and they start going towards Billy, and start hanging around with him, and like I said, that's what it feels like Sandlot and stuff like that, and like I say, it's not a really deep movie, but it's a good one. It's one that I would have enjoyed when I was a kid. Billy has a friend called Erica. They all call her Irk, I think it's called, because she's really, really tall. She's like the tallest kid in the school, but they make fun of her. And obviously it's not very nice, but there it's that being boys, like when you're younger, boys will be always like, ooh, girls, don't like girls, sort of thing. She's a girl, it's this boy things. And that even she goes, oh, boys are so weird because they're getting excited over eating worms and stuff like that. Like, boys are weird, let's be honest, we're very weird creatures. But Billy has his friend Erica, and she's the only one that really sticks up for him. And like the reason that she likes him and she sticks up for him is because he's a decent person, and he stood up to Joe, and he proved that Joe isn't as big as a like he's not, what's the word I'm looking for? He's not an immovable object. You know what I mean? Like, he is impervious. He is impervious. Is that the right word? Vulnerable, probably the better word I'm looking for. And that all it takes is one person to stand up to him, and then everybody realizes that he's actually not as big as strong as he makes out to be. So yeah, it's a good film. It is. I was quite surprised. Is it worth the wait? Possibly not. But I kind of had that inkling going into it, to be honest. I had a feeling like this is a kid's movie. This is a movie that I probably would have liked and enjoyed when I was younger. And again, it is just a movie about kids eating worms. Again, I wasn't expecting Martin Scorsese or anything like that. I would have been surprised if it was deeper and there was like real deep sort of moments in it, but it isn't. You know what I mean? Like, the movie is exactly what it is, what it says on the tin, basically. How to eat fried worms, basically. But I remember, the trailer was intriguing, and I'm not sort of sitting here saying, oh God, I've wasted my time. It's interesting. And not just that, growing up as a Disney kid and watching a lot of the Disney Channel and the Disney Channel movies, a lot of the people in this movie I knew anyway, because they all was in Disney programs. Or again, like Clint Howard, he's been in like a lot of movies. I've seen him in so many movies. Or Tom Cavanaugh, again, The Reverse Flash, all those other things. So I recognise him. Kimberly Pasley, I'm sure I've seen her in other things. If I click, her face is really familiar. No movies are coming to mind right now. Yeah, she was in Father of the Bride. She was in The Young Girl, Father of the Bride. Apparently she's in Porco Rosso, apparently. She was in, I think, was she in 9/11? Was it 911 something? I don't know. But I'm sure I've seen her in other things. But the point is, I've recognised her face. I've seen her in a lot of programs. So it's a very recognisable cast. So I think that was able for me as well to kind of really get into it, because I was like, oh, I recognise this kid. I recognise that kid. I recognise that actor and actress and that sort of thing. And you got Haley Eisenberg, which I only found out while watching, so I realised, oh, that's Jesse Eisenberg's sister. And she was in like the Bicentennial Man, Paulie, again, How to Eat Fried Worms, wild child. Like she's been in like a lot of movies that are very recognizable sort of face, especially like from like the early 90s to like 2000s. Anyway, I'm rambling on. I do have a bit of trivia for you for this movie before we wrap things up. I've just got to find it because I've literally just lost it. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? There it is. There you are. Come on. There you are. Right. So, trivia. So, according to Clubhouse magazine, Luke Benwood, who plays Billy, almost did not make the part because of traffic, a train, and becoming lost. Luke and his mother arrived 20 minutes after FedEx had closed. Fortunately, a benevolent employee agreed to mail the audition tape. After Luke got the part as Billy, Luke and his mother returned to FedEx to thank and give roses to the kind employee. Luke Benwood's favourite worm to eat was the greasy brown toad bloater special, which, if I remember correctly, that was the one that was deep fried. The kid had basically deep fried it, but basically ruining all health code violations completely. Like, this is a working kitchen, right? And for somebody who's worked in a working kitchen at work, trust me, that is a health code violation and goes over, would really get a kitchen shut down. Anyway, that's me being an adult. That's my adult brain. My child brain's like, yeah, it's a kid's movie, but my adult brain's like, that's wrong. Don't do that. Anyway, shows how much I'm boring. So young lad, he's got these worms and he's put them in this deep fat fryer and he's fried them up. He's put them in batter, so they look like battered sausage, to be honest. And then he's put like I think it's pig grease or something like that on top of it. And he eats it, and yeah, it's disgusting. It is, but at the same stage, you're like, yeah, fair play to him. Where was I? Okay, so on the very first day of shooting, while the boys, minus Luke Benwood, were trying out their new bikes, Philip Bolden accidentally hit the back tire of Austin Rogers' bike and crashed, hitting his mouth on the curb and breaking his front teeth. His teeth had to be replaced. The accident left marks on his face that the makeup crew attempted to cover, but are still visible on camera. As the marks healed, they had to be drawn in to maintain continuity. I never noticed that at all. I did wonder as to why this actor was slowly, as the movie was going on, he went from being like at the front, like he was one of the front men in the group and you'd always see him, and to the point of where he just kept going into the background and other characters kind of took the spotlight. Maybe that's the reason. Maybe that was always part of the script, but I always wondered why. Hold on, this is a very recognizable sort of like actor. Like I recognize his face. He's been in a lot of movies. Why he's being pushed to the back when he was at the front at the beginning of the movie, and this makes sense. The pajamas Twitch wore towards the end of the movie were specially made for him, and Alexander Gould, who played Twitch, was allowed to keep them afterwards. Erica's house was the same house used for the scene Joe and Nigel were talking in at the beginning of the movie. So that is it for trivia. What I wanted to look into, though, because obviously it's a movie, they're not going to get this young boy to eat worms. They're not going to do it. Right. So it's very simple. So, what did they use? So the filmmakers used both real and fake worms throughout the movie. Worms shown coming out of the thermos was real, as were those seen in a pile on a counter. These worms were purchased from a bait store and returned when the filming was over. So they did use real worms for like certain parts. Because again, you kind of had to. Not the parts where he eats it, but the parts where you see, you've got to see him wriggling and moving about. So using real worms for that part makes sense. But most of the worms that appear in the film were not real, obviously. They were either rubber, gelatin, and food colouring, or mushroom stems. During the cooking sequences, an air hose placed inside some of the gelatin worms made them wriggle and appear quite realistic. And one thing that I love, which kind of makes me giggle, was that at the end of the movie, so they have the credits, because they have animated credits, you have like the pictures of the actor with their name, and then you have an animated version of what the sort of character sort of looks like. So you do all that, and at the end of the movie, it goes, no worms were harmed in the making of this movie. And then it cuts to the scene where one worm's in the microwave, and then it explodes. And then it goes, including this one. And then I was thinking to myself, well, what did they use instead? And that was it. It was rubber worms, gelatin worms with and food coloring, or mushroom stems, which I would imagine were probably shiitake mushrooms, because a shiitake mushroom has a long stem. That's only a guess. Again, I don't know. But yeah, during the cooking sequences, an air hose is placed in the gelatin to make them wriggle and appear realistic. So yeah, now the more you know. But that's what I've got to say really about this film. Like, it's not going to be a long one. It's a very sort of cut and dry, sort of not very deep child's movie. And like I said, this is an experiment. This is me just trying something new. I doubt anybody's really going to listen to this, and if they do, again, thank you. It's not really one that I can imagine many people will be like, oh my God, Luke's talking about how to eat fried worms. He's an absolute genius. Not at all. I'm not. I'm just somebody who is very silly, who likes to try new things, and some things work and some things won't. And I would be very much surprised if this is very much successful, but we will see. I don't know what I'm going to look at next. I'm looking at my list of again, as part of this series of other films, and there's many good ones. I think I know what I'm going to do next. It's a movie called 99 Homes. It's got Andrew Garfield in it, and God, I can't remember the other actor. No, I can't remember the actor. No, he was the bad guy in Kangaroo Jack. He wasn't Christopher Walken. He was the other guy. He played Sammy. I believe his name was Sammy in it. His first role was in Groundhog Day. He was in The Shape of Water as well. He played the villain in that. God, I can see his face, but I can't remember the name for the life of me. Anyway, it's not the point. I think the next one I'm going to watch is 99 Homes. I don't know when I'm going to get around to it, but I am looking forward to watching that one, because that one's been on my list for a very, very long time. So yeah, if you like this one, you thought it was interesting, let me know. Again, like I said, it's an experiment, so all feedback is welcome. If you think it wasn't the best one to start with, and maybe I should have started with something else, or this experiment's a bit silly, not going to work, or if you're excited to see what comes next, then by all means, let me know. But I had fun. It was interesting, and some of the movies that I watched for this podcast, really, like I was generally sitting there being like, what is with me? What am I doing with my life? Like, there's other things and other movies that I could be watching. Instead of this one. But what I will say, to wrap it up and to end things sort of properly, what I will say, if you have kids, right, if you're a parent and you have kids and you're looking for something to put on for them to watch, because this is a kids movie, this is a movie that's made specifically for them, and kids like disgusting, like horrible things like this, because I did when I was a kid. This is a movie that they'll enjoy, to be honest. If your kid is easily prone to being sick, then possibly not. But, if you want something to put on, something that's, fun, interesting, silly, just a bunch of kids having fun, then this is one for them. But apart from that, like I said, it's one that you don't really need to watch, to be honest. Like, your life, it can go on well not having watched this movie. So yeah, that was How to Eat Fried Worms, and yeah, this is part of my new series, beginning sort of movies I've only seen the trailer to. So hopefully you stick around for the next one. Yeah, make sure that you follow me on Spotify. Make sure you leave a 5-star rating. Make sure you follow me on YouTube, like, comment, and subscribe, and all that jazz. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on TikTok. Follow me on Instagram. And yeah, I've been your host, Luke the Howdy Bean. It's been an absolute honor and pleasure as always. And I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye-bye.